Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Libraries are one of the center points of any community, a gathering place for people and information. That's particularly true for university and college libraries. Large or small libraries have adapted to changes in technology and the new needs of our communities. At the University of Vermont, the library provides more than a quiet space to study. It's the hub of scholarship, research, and social interaction. Joining me to talk about the role of libraries is the Dean of Libraries at the University of Vermont, Bryn Geffert.
Thank you, Fran.
It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So, let's just right off the bat, what do you see as the role of the library, the university library, when it comes to students?
Yeah, I think we have really three things that we want to accomplish on behalf of students. The first is to help in the curriculum to ensure that our students graduate knowing how to conduct good research. And I use that term broadly. Can they ask good researchable questions, find the information they need to answer those questions, determine who are authorities on those questions, weigh what they find, jettison what's not worth keeping, interpret it, and ultimately produce good work. So we're increasingly thinking about how we work with faculty to teach students those skills. The second piece, of course, is providing information itself to our students. Can they obtain everything they need to answer the questions they're asking? And third is providing research services, doing research on behalf of our faculty and on behalf of our students, using the subject experts we have in our libraries to ferret out information. And not only provide information, but do various kinds of research services. We have statisticians in the library who help students analyze data, archive data, visualize data, do text mining as texts become increasing. So those are really the three things: helping them find information, teaching them to search for information, and providing the research services they need.
So even though we all have these little libraries in our hands, you need a lot to determine what you're looking at and if it's good. And so there's that. I mean, So we need those services, not just our phones.
I believe we do. In fact, the proliferation of information on the internet and the proliferation of information on the phones makes it even more imperative that we be working to teach students how to evaluate that information. We all know that there's a great deal of good information out there. We know that there's a great deal of misinformation out there. And if we aren't graduating citizens who know how to wade through it and evaluate it, we're not doing our good job. We think that a crucial piece of a liberally educated student is a student who can make sense of everything being found out there.
Right, terrific. And I thought it was interesting that you are a dean, not a director, because librarians are considered faculty at the University of Vermont.
They are at the University of Vermont. They aren't at all university libraries, but yes, because we're faculty, we are organized in some ways like other faculty, and the dean is the leader of the library. Then.
All right, terrific. You know, earlier this year, Northern Vermont University, the Vermont State College system, of course, famously made headlines that they were suggesting to close their campus libraries and put all their holdings online. That decision has since been rescinded, policies amended, and they lost a president. Is reducing the number of physical books in favor of electronic books something that the University of Vermont is considering or would consider?
It's a really complicated question, and we're considering it in some ways. So certainly there are advantages to electronic books. In many ways they're cheaper to keep. It's very expensive to build shelves for print books and to take care of them. It is theoretically or technologically easier to distribute electronic books. You know, you don't have to pay mailing fees and the U.S. Postal Service. But there are problems with electronic books, and one of the problems is this. When we buy in our library print books, we own that book in its entirety. We can do whatever we want with it. We can lend it to whomever we want. If a student in Hong Kong needs a copy, we'll send it to the mail through Hong Kong. Many of the electronic books that publishers are producing, they are licensing to libraries rather than selling to libraries. And those licenses can sometimes prohibit us from lending those books. And academic libraries are intensely dependent on interlibrary loan networks. None of us can purchase everything our students need. We have to be able to share back and forth. And when we're purchasing electronic books that we cannot share, those interlibrary loan networks break down. So that's one problem with electronic books. The second is often the fees for electronic books are substantially more than for print books. It costs us more to purchase electronic books. So we are still buying a lot of print books, in part because we are committed to ensuring that we can lend those books to whomever needs to use them. And we don't always have those assurances in electronic books, so we are still purchasing print books.
Wow, so you would consider sending a book to Hong Kong because it's cheaper, so you do that?
Yes, we have an incredibly active interlibrary loan office which sends and receives thousands of books a year across the oceans.
And it's cheaper than some electronic books?
It's cheaper in many cases, and it's allowed contractually, whereas it's not always allowed with electronic books.
Wow. So, you know, of course, many of our viewers will remember a time when librarians suggested books, and you know, you look through the microfilm or whatever.
Right.
But librarians just did amazing things through the pandemic and other times. What is the role of a librarian today?
So the role of a librarian is increasingly that of a teacher. It is the role of helping identify needs in the community for information and meeting those needs. One of the things we're really excited about at the University of Vermont Libraries, we just completed a new strategic plan, and we're now creating positions to fulfill that strategic plan. We have been tracking the work of a task force commissioned by the Vermont State Legislature to investigate the state of libraries in Vermont. How healthy are libraries, especially public libraries in Vermont? That task force is working on a report and is going to be issuing its report soon. We at the UVM Libraries have committed to hiring a position whose job is to take recommendations in that report and see how we in the UVM Libraries can meet those needs. So this person will be in part helping communities, business communities, conduct research for themselves. It will be putting folks in the state who have research needs in touch with researchers in the University of Vermont Libraries. We hope that this person will be establishing relationships with public libraries. And we also want to think really hard about how we're getting information out into citizens of the state. We've been talking with the state library and the state librarian about new ways of connecting to electronic systems in the state to get some of our literature out to citizens who need it.
That's fantastic, because often you felt like, I can't go to the university library and it's closed off to us, and now you're really opening it up. It's awesome.
We are, both physically, anybody who walks through our doors gets a library card, but we also want to make sure we're getting the literature out to the branches and local communities.
Terrific. And speaking of access, recently UVM announced the launch of the Open Access Academic Press.
Yes.
And this is a cause that has been close to your heart for at least a decade.
Yes.
With so many university presses actually failing because people aren't buying so many books, I hear. Why is UVM starting out with this press? Because you've never had a press before.
That's right. We partnered with a group of presses in the Northeast, but we've never had our own independent press. So it's a great question. It's a little complicated, and I'm going to back up just a little bit. The reason we are starting a university press is that we believe that there are some really basic problems with the way that academic information and scholarship is produced and distributed. When you think about how research is funded in the United States and Vermont, the University of Vermont last year obtained almost $250,000 to conduct research. That money came from federal agencies, which is to say it came from taxpayer money, it came from philanthropic support. We invested those millions of dollars to produce research in the public good. And when our researchers then are ready to publish that, they often send it off to commercial publishers who pass judgment on it. If they like it, they publish it. And then they ask our researchers who are working on public dollars to sign over rights in that scholarship. Right? Okay, we funded it. We now give it away to the commercial publishers. They lock it away behind paywalls. And if we want access to it, we have to buy it back. So we've
your own research you have to buy back.
Exactly. We've designed a system that's really quite perverse. And these commercial publishers are, in some cases, emerging as monopolies, and they are charging the prices one can charge as monopolies. So we have a system in which all of this research conducted for the public good is being locked away from the public. We universities ourselves have trouble buying it back, and most of the world, including most of the citizens in the US, have no access to it. So you were talking earlier about all of the stuff available through your phone.
Right.
We can't get it. So we want to produce a system for producing information that vets research in the same ways, that edits it in the same ways, but publishes it free of charge to anybody with an internet connection. And that's the commitment our University of Vermont Press is making. Rigorously edited research, published electronically, no paywalls, available to everybody who needs it.
Well, this sounds perfect, but you need a lot of other people also doing this.
Yes.
So tell us about the kind of movement in the United States, or much less the world, because you need everybody to do open access if it's going to work, right?
That's right. And there is some gratifying movement in the United States. Several months ago, the Biden administration announced that it was going to require all recipients of federal research grants to make their research publicly available, open access. The different agencies in the federal government are each working through exactly how that's going to be implemented through their agencies, but this is a mandate that all recipients are going to have to abide by, and UVM receives a lot of federal funds.
Oh, well, I'm wondering, so how does this open press kind of, how would it affect all of us? So somebody who's not affiliated with UVM, is it just going to come back to us in a way? Or is it just going to cost us all money?
So it is going to cost the university money, and we are using money that we in the past would have given to commercial publishers to try to produce information in the ways we want. It's going to affect the citizens in some ways. So what the University of Vermont Press publishes will be freely available to all citizens. Some of that will be fairly esoteric research that will be of interest only to small groups. Sure. But we are also committed to publishing material that is aimed at a broader audience. One of the publications we've committed to that I'm really excited about is something we're tentatively calling Janus Texts. The university for a long time has brought scholars to campus who stand on opposite sides of contentious issues in the public square in debate, modeling the kind of civic debate we see very little of in this era. We are going to publish that research to show in print how competing opinions can engage with each other, and then make it freely available.
Wow. Well, I love libraries. I love what you're doing there. Bryn, thank you so much for joining us today on Across the Fence.
It was an honor, Fran. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Across the Fence today. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.